Hello. How's everybody doing? You guys doing good? Hopefully you're enjoying your weekend and, well, I was gonna say holidays, but holiday is no longer the holidays. But hopefully you guys are enjoying your weekend so far and you're ready for some streaming. I've been like I feel like I've been prepping for this stream for a while, just like gathering a bunch of assets, gathering things, making sure everything's like ready so in order for it to like run as smoothly as possible. But yeah, we're ready to finally get started. How am I doing? I'm doing not too bad, pretty good. I've a birthday, I guess, get together to go to later tonight. I'm gonna be going to like a comedy club, which is my first time. Actually, I've never been to a comedy club, so we'll see how it goes. My friends said that we might get roasted, so we're all a little a little nervous, kind of like, oh, never been to a roast before, and I don't know who's gonna be at this comedy show either, so I don't know how the roast is gonna go, but looking forward to it. So it's kind of neat, but yeah. We're gonna get started, and everybody just sit tight. Hopefully you grabbed like either a piece of paper, a sketchbook, or I don't know, got your tablet or your computer, whatever it is that you need to get drawing, because this stream is gonna be a little bit different. It's actually gonna be one where I would encourage you all to kind of join with me as I do these exercises, and it'll be kind of a little bit of like a work session or workshop where I highly encourage that you follow along and join in. And yeah, and if you have any questions about these exercises, I'm going to be kind of answering them as we do them. So yeah, but without further ado, I guess we will hop in and start the stream. So hello everybody, and welcome to our Practice Effectively live stream. My name is Josh, and I'm one of the instructors here at Wing Canvas. And if you don't know who we are at Wing Canvas, and this is your first time joining us, well, welcome. And we at Wing Canvas, our mission is to make art education easily accessible to everyone. So that's why we live stream our lessons every week on YouTube on Saturday at 3 p.m. Eastern Time and on Monday at 12 p.m. Eastern Time. So yeah, we're definitely super glad that you're able to join us for these live streams and just participate and kind of just check us out. And we're also more than just a YouTube channel. So we've always wanted to kind of improve or get better at drawing, but these YouTube live streams, they're just not enough and you want more. Well, guess what? We also have classes. So we're an online school of illustration and visual storytelling. We're an online school of illustration and visual storytelling, and we dedicate our time to helping artists turn their passion into income. And so a huge shout out to our amazing students and members for supporting our mission. We love seeing your incredible artwork and watching you guys grow in our classes and weekly critiques. And if you'd like to dive deeper and kind of connect with us as well, guess what? We have social media platforms as well. So join our Discord to access stream notes and demos, exclusive artwork, art challenges, and more free resources to help you improve. And so come connect with your fellow art nerds and get inspired. And if you'd like to support us, we also have Patreon as well as School, SKOOL. And if you join us, you get a few kind of bits of perks here and there, which you guys can check out if you'd like. But yeah, thank you everybody for supporting us and also supporting us here on YouTube. And again, as always, if you like this video and like the stream, definitely give us a like and a follow so you are notified of when we stream next time. And yeah, so that's kind of it for our little bit of an intro. Hope you guys are ready. And yeah. Let's see, just catching up a little bit on stream. Someone roast Josh, please. I really do not look forward to getting roasted. Also, yeah, so I saw somewhere where somebody asked before our stream started, asked if we are going to be sharing the community's monthly art challenges submissions. So if you guys didn't know, every month we have a new art challenge that goes up, and for this month, the month of January, it is a 30-minute art challenge where you upload any of your pieces that you did within the 30-minute time frame. And so this is encouraging you guys to draw a little bit faster, give yourself a little bit of like some guidelines and some framework to work within. And yeah, I got it ready to kind of share. Let's hope this runs well. Let me see. Okay, so yeah, this is the 30-minute concepts. So you're free to upload any of your drawings that you did within 30 minutes. And the first one up is, hopefully I also got the names kind of correct. Let me see. Still kind of getting a hang on which one is which. Give me a sec, guys. Ah, here it is. Oh, that's the last one. Okay, starting off with number 1. This one is by Cozy. So thank you, Cozy, for submitting. This is an awesome drawing here of, like, I don't know, it looks like a rat werewolf looking type of creature here. Really love the scale, I don't know, the anatomy and the proportions of it. It looks really, really awesome. So thank you, Cozy, for submitting. And then the next one is by Heartless Hadessa Hess. I'm glad to see you submitting on this challenge as well. I've been seeing your name kind of pop up here and there, but also an awesome character design here. Really love the shoulder pads, and the cape I think does a really, really good job of framing the characters here. So yeah, thank you, Hess, for submitting. Then the next one is by, let me see, Calamity. Man, typing your name out was a lot of fun because I put in the wrong kind of name, and then I had to like retype it, and I had to retype it again for some reason. But yeah, you're all the capital letters on the names gave me a little bit of a little loopity loop for typing it out. But awesome name though. But yeah, also awesome drawing. So really cool pen work here, really cool sketch. I love kind of traditional speedy type sketches, and I think you did an excellent job of capturing whatever the scenery was, whether it's real life or based on photo. I think you did a great job. So yeah, thank you, Calamity, for submitting. And then lastly, you guys saw it a little bit at the beginning. This is by Tricks. I thought it'd be really cool to add in a little bit of a traditional piece here, because mostly the pieces we do here on Wing Canvas are digital, but we started off more as a traditional kind of a school. So I think it's always good to kind of give a shout out to our roots, shout out to the people who are still doing things traditionally. And I really love this piece because it kind of reminds me of the sketches that I used to do back in, like, I don't know, grade 8 or grade, I don't know, like 9 or something, where as class is going on, I just have like a notepad around me and I'm just like taking notes and everything. And like not taking notes, but like drawing sketches and drawing little kind of faces here. So yeah, this kind of gives me a little bit of flashbacks to kind of my young days, I guess. A little, what is it? Back to the past kind of thing, for flash to the past, whatever it's called. But yeah, this is a really cool drawing. So thank you, Tricks, for submitting, and thank you everyone who submitted. So again, thank you for those. Hopefully you guys had a nice little shout out here. Hopefully you guys enjoy these pieces. Yeah, a little hit of nostalgia for sure. And yeah, it's only the 10th of January, so you have like 20 more days to work on these pieces if you have any that you want to submit. And if you want to kind of participate in this challenge, just just remember that these challenges are up for a month, and we will try to shout out as many pieces and submissions as possible as the month goes on. But again, thank you everybody for submitting, and thank you, Hadessa, thank you, Tricks, Cozy, and Calamity, for submitting your pieces, and I look forward to seeing more of your pieces, guys. Okay, so going back to the stream, okay, time to go into our topics. So before we go into the actual exercise itself, I do kind of want to touch base on practice effectively, and I do want to kind of just mention that there's a bunch of different exercises that you can do to help you improve and help you practice drawing and also practicing more effectively. There's a whole bunch of different exercises out there. I'm only really going to be able to skim a few, or like just skim the surface, get a few exercises going just so that we could fit them all into this live stream. But if you guys have any other exercises that you personally do, feel free to put them in the comments below or mention them into the chat. And because I don't think there's any bad exercises per se, but I think the best thing, or the best mindset to have going into doing exercises, is to know what they do and what is the point of doing these exercises. And before we go into the actual exercises itself, I did want to mention a few things, or a little, I guess, housekeeping when it comes into like how to practice effectively, because I guess that is the name of the game for today. So one, I think ultimately when you're practicing and you're coming up with exercises to do, the goal of it is to hone your skills. So this is always the first thing, and then the second one is to experiment. And I think it's always a balance between these 2 points. I think when you're honing your skills, and I say this to my students all the time, which is that drawing is always a balance between technical and gestural or expressive drawings. If you're too expressive, you're too loose, but if you're too technical, you can be too stiff. So I think it's always, when you're going into an exercise, to know that it is a balance between these 2 elements or these 2 aspects. So you need to find a balance between the 2. And for these exercises that I'm going to go into today, my approach or my perspective coming in is more on character. It's focusing more on character design and character illustration. So a lot of these exercises are meant to kind of train your line work, kind of meant to train your ability to simplify and your ability to kind of build out shapes. Let's just say that. Build out shapes. So these are kind of like when I focus more on character. These exercises are gonna, or hopefully, help you kind of build out these qualities. And for these exercises, the goal, when you guys are doing these exercises, my goal is to also help you hone your ability to kind of look at something and kind of break it down into simple shapes. And I think this is a good mindset to also go up or go into most exercises, is to go in not to like focus on the nitty-gritty details like the fingernails or the facial features or the eyes, but it really is more to focus on how do you simplify things. If you can really grasp the idea or the concept behind an exercise, the more you can kind of expand beyond that and apply it to other exercises. Also, let's see. Will I be going over line work warm-up exercises? Yeah, so I haven't gone into exactly what these exercises are for or what they are exactly, but I will be going into them soon. I'm kind of going over roughly some things to keep in mind as you guys are practicing, because I think the term of exercises is very vague, and there's a lot of different exercises out there. A lot of exercises tackle different things and help you out in different ways. So I think knowing what certain exercises do and what the goal of those exercises are is always a good thing to keep in mind, because some exercises might help you hone your technical knowledge, some exercises might hone your ability to simplify, other exercises might hone in your line work skills. But for me, my goal is to try to help you break shapes down and break references down into simple shapes. And then also, I want these exercises to help you guys think more direct. Be more direct with your line work. So instead of being very kind of wishy-washy and a little bit kind of vague or unconfident with your line work, hopefully these exercises here will warm you up a little bit in how you approach these. No point in training your biceps if you only know tricep exercises. Same with anything. Yeah, exactly. Art is very much kind of like working out. You need to train a little bit of everything, but if you only do arm day and your legs aren't that great, then I don't know, your body might be a little bit imbalanced there. Or if you work out your arms but don't have any core, then that's no good. And if you don't have endurance, then you can't do like other exercises as well. So art is very much the same thing. Every exercise kind of tackles a different weak point in maybe your skill or ability, and knowing what those exercises do and what they focus on is a good thing. So that's why I'm kind of laying it out all here first, so that you understand where I'm heading in and what direction I'm kind of going for. Can't carry huge arms if you don't have legs to stand on. Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. So we're going to go through 3 different types of exercises, and if you saw the promo image for the stream, you'll kind of know what we're going to be tackling a little bit of. And the first one we're going to tackle is... Oh, before I go in, that's not the one. Is it this one? Yes. So the first one I want to go into that we're going to practice is the pillow exercise. So if you've never heard of the pillow exercise before, it is basically turning kind of any kind of figure that you see, the human body, and trying to translate it as a pillow. So this is an example of one from our character design intensive that happened over the summer this past year in 2025. And basically I show the students a bunch of different figures and references, and we're going to do the same thing, but I'm going to show a bunch of different figures, and you're going to, instead of drawing the figures with heads and arms and hands and hair and clothing, you're going to turn all those poses as if you're posing it for a pillow. So if the figure is throwing a kick, then you're going to try to interpret that figure as if a pillow is doing a kick. If the person in the photo is doing a yawn, then you're going to interpret that pose as a pillow doing a yawn. How would a pillow do it? What would the shape be? And how would it move? Yeah, there's a lot of different interpretations of it. Some of them like to interpret it as like a beanbag. Some people like to interpret it as a sack of flour. I like pillow. I think this is because the pillow is the first one that was introduced to me through actually a Disney cup that I had as like a kid. My mom got it for me. I forgot, like, I guess randomly, and she was like, oh, here, I got you a Donald Duck mug, and on this mug, I wish I could show you guys, but on this mug there are these little drawings of Donald Duck's personalities translated as pillows, and that's always kind of stuck with me as a kid, just because I think pillows do a really good way of kind of communicating the softness and the organic kind of squishiness of a body or of a cartoon character. And it captures a little bit of like the flexibility that of like a, I guess, an organic character. But totally sack of flour or beanbag, I think totally work as well. I just feel like pillow, I've always been more used to pillow. Yeah. I'm too old. Yeah, no, you're never too old to jump back into drawing. You know, there's but yeah, I don't think you're ever too old to jump back into drawing. But let me list out what are some of the good things of the pillow exercise. So the first thing is the pillow exercise allows you to kind of train how to translate the image. Translates the reference. A lot of times when we do figure drawing, we get really caught up on the technicalities, things like anatomy and skeleton, and whether we're capturing the accuracy of the pose. The great thing about the pillow exercise is that because we're drawing the reference as a pillow, accuracy in terms of like how human it looks is thrown out the window. You don't really have to worry about that. What you really have to worry about is capturing the gesture, the energy, like the energy of the pose, and so energy or momentum is like another way of putting it. Momentum, and kind of just like personality. Are you able to capture any personality that you see in the reference. So this is what the pillow exercise is really good for. It trains you to think outside of the box and trains you or teaches you to kind of think beyond just the reference. I always tell my students this when it comes to figure drawing is when you do a figure drawing and you put it down and you come back to it like a year later or half a year later, can you still tell what that pose was? Can you still kind of see what the original reference may have been, what the pose was kind of going for? And what the great thing about doing figure drawing is, and a lot of people don't know this, is that if you're ever stuck and you don't know what pose to do, or you're trying to come up with a cool pose for your original character, your OCs, and you just can't think of one, what I encourage you guys to do is actually flip through your figure drawing sessions that you've done, your studies that you've done, and kind of use those as a way to help jumpstart any idea that you have to draw your characters in. So if you don't know a pose, then look at your figure drawing poses and see what interesting poses that you can put your OCs in. And because it's no longer like that detailed, it might not be that like super like accurate to the reference, you're no longer attaching your drawing or study to the reference. You're almost seeing your studies and your references in a whole new angle and perspective. And you can now apply like your original characters or your illustration and attach that character's look and match it to the pose that you did. So that's kind of the great thing about this exercise. It allows you to think outside of just accuracy. So this is another one. It teaches you or trains you to simplify. Simplify the figure. And the great thing too is that because there's no limbs or anything, you only really have to focus on the body of the pillow. Focus on the body of the pillow. Okay. Through poses I've done and mashed them together. Yeah. Essentially, you've kind of curated, when you do figure drawing studies, you've curated like this collection of poses that you have done, and you can just reuse them and apply your characters, apply those poses to your characters, especially if they're more mannequin-like poses, kind of like the ones down here. There's no clothing, there's no hair, there's no features or anything that describes these poses. So I can always take this and apply it to my character and make my character pose like this. And, you know, you never know what you'd come up with. And the pillow exercises, going back to the pillow exercise, it allows you to also kind of push the poses. Pushes the poses so that you can really exaggerate them and stylize them. So yeah, so this is the first one we're going to do. And in case none of you guys have ever done the pillow exercise before, I'm going to quickly run through how it works or how you can approach it. If this is your first time and you're super beginner for it, simply just go at drawing the pillow as almost kind of like the Black Widow logo. I don't know if you guys know what I'm talking about, but you know, in the Avengers, in Marvel, there's a character called Black Widow, and Black Widow's logo is kind of like this kind of like shape over here. I think it's more sharper, kind of looks a little bit like an X in a way, something like that. But for the pillow, we want it a little bit wider around the middle. Okay, and this kind of in a way simulates a bit of a torso, and it's kind of like the main body of the pillow. Once you have the main body of the pillow, try to also mark down the center line. And the cool thing about the pillow exercise is that you can start off really basic, something like this, and wherever you put the center line kind of implies how the body is turning. So if you can draw the same kind of pillow shape, and where you put the center line changes the perspective and the angle and the form and volume of the pillow. So it's actually the center line that plays a huge role in this exercise. It's not so much the shape of the pillow, it's really more the center line. So we're going to start off with this first if you've never done this before. Low spatial IQ. Yeah, we can go over it when we first go through this exercise for sure. Yeah, I can show you what are some things I look for to map out the center. So for those who are a little bit more advanced with the pillow and you want to tackle something like this, then you simply take the body of the pillow and now you add corners to it. So you add these ears, or I like to call them ears. So they're basically kind of like these flaps, these triangular flaps that you can add to the corners of your pillows. And you can feel free to erase the more triangular geometrical shapes that are there, and you'll get a more plush, fluffy type of a pillow. You really want to capture the personality of the pillow, like the traits, the physical traits of the pillow. So how soft it is, that it maybe is filled with, I don't know, maybe it's beans or sand or flour or feathers, whatever, depending on whatever material the flower pillow that you're drawing. But really try to capture the material of this pillow and how it would like change in form and shape as it's moving around. And you really want to maintain the volume, consistency of the pillow. So what that means is a lot of times when students first draw the pillow, they'll do something like this. If the pillow is supposed to stay the same, don't have the pillow all of a sudden lose or shrink in volume. Like, these are not the same pillows. It should feel the same. So how would I draw something like this? If a person was reaching up towards the sky, then I might kind of just have the pillow stretch like this. And then maybe it folds up around in the middle, something like that. So you can see that it maintains kind of the chunkiness of the original pillow, but now it's stretched up. And the way I'm emphasizing that is to have it be thinner around the top and wider around the base, and it's tapering towards the top to really get the stretch feeling that's up there. Do a line of action. You could start off with the line of action. It depends on how you want to start off the piece. The line of action isn't always necessary. You can do it if you want. I actually like to use the line of action to check my drawings rather than start off my drawings with the line of action. But it's totally up to you. There is no right or wrong way in how you use the line of action. But yeah, so this is how I would build it out. But if you do require to draw the line of action first, like let's say if you want to do like another stretching pose, but you're doing something like this, then this guides your drawing. And now you can be like, oh, okay, well, the arm is reaching this way. Again, I'm going to have it be wider at the base and thinner at the top. And I'm using the gesture line to help how I'm twisting the pillow. So this can be how you really guide your pillow. But if you kind of prefer using the gesture line afterwards to correct or change or improve your drawing, you totally can. There's no like rule or like hard rule that you gotta stick to forever and be like, oh, gesture line always gotta come first. No, you can actually put the gesture line afterwards to check whether your drawing is fluid or gestural enough. But yeah, so this is more for the more advanced way for those who are a little bit more kind of in or know how to do this already. And for those who are like a little bit more beginner, you can start off with something like this. Treat it more as just like a square like box that tapers a little bit in the middle. Give it a little bit of like a waist, and then just figure out where the center line is. And then for those who are a bit more advanced, you can do it more like this. Get a little bit of the plump aspect of the pillow. How can you draw a pillow that is bent? So here's an example of a pillow that is bent, or this one. Again, you want to keep in mind that a pillow has no spine. There are no joints or bones or muscles inside of a pillow. It's all made of stuffing. But because it's made out of stuffing, a pillow can only bend so much because it's also made of cloth. It has like a pillow sheet around it, and it's kind of bound by the limits of its shape. So when you're drawing these pillows, really kind of embody what a pillow can do. There are limitations to it. A human pose can do one thing that a pillow might not be able to do, but it's kind of up to you to figure out. How I draw or interpret the pose is going to be maybe a little bit different from how you interpret the pose. But with that being said, I think we can jump into this first one here. This is going to be a little bit of a warm-up. I have it kind of set up so that we will be doing 12 of these. I think what I'll do is for the first 12 or first 6, The first 6, I'll tackle it in the easy approach, so for anyone who's not too familiar with this can follow along. And then for those who are a little bit more advanced, you can kind of go off and do your thing. And then in the last 6, I will approach it and tackle it in the more advanced way, so that for anybody who wants to tackle it or not too sure, I will show you how it's done. So again, feel free to follow along, feel free to hop on and do these, ask me any questions if you're able to. I will try to my best to answer them whenever I'm able to look up on the chat and read it. But yeah, we're gonna kind of start with this. And like someone asked like, oh, if you're a little bit spatially not that like good at mapping out the center line or the volume of an object, how do you look for the center line? So I'm going to show you that really quick first, and then we'll start the exercise. So maybe what I'll do is I will, give me a sec. I will actually, let's increase this to 13. Display tablets, I'm trying to transition from digital. Any tips? Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean, we are actually usually sponsored. This stream's not sponsored, but we usually are sponsored by XPPen. Some of our future streams are also sponsored by XPPen. So you can definitely check out their tablets. I think their tablets are on the more lower and affordable side, whereas like Wacom is definitely on the higher side. I'm not too sure about Huion. I know that Huion has like a lot of people also like Huion as well, but I haven't looked too much into Huion. But yeah, for sure, XPPen offers like a good selection, so a lot of different sizes and a lot of different price points as well. I'm actually also currently using the XPPen tablet, and it's worked for me really, really well since I've gotten it. So yeah, I definitely encourage you to check their site if you want to check out a good collection of tablets. Okay, so oh, also by the way, all these references, the poses, they will be clothed. There are no, actually, let me quickly check. Let me quickly double check just in case. Let me see. Yeah, only covered. So there are no nude models. It's all covered. So you have no worries. Okay, this is a bad one. Okay, let's start with this one. So I'm not gonna, this one, you can draw it if you want to, but this was for the guy who asked, like, or the person who asked, oh, what if I'm spatially low IQ? How do I map out the volume of it? So what I would say is look for the silhouette. When it comes to the pillow exercise, if you're really, really stuck, just focus on the torso. You don't have to focus on the arms or the head or the legs. Focus mostly from the shoulders down to around the middle of, like, let's say the underwear, or right below the, or right around the hips. So what that means is I'm going to draw it out like this. And try to be direct. So if you remember kind of like the notes that I said, one thing to keep in mind is to try to break it down into simple shapes and be direct with your line work. So I want you guys to try to focus and practice being very, very direct. Oh, interesting. It made us lose it, even though it's paused. Huh, that's interesting. But yeah, so singular lines. Not going to try to do like a bunch of lines over and over again. And then look for where the center of this guy's like sternum is. So I can see like in between the pectoral muscles, and then I would look around for the abdomen muscles and then down to the navel. And this gives you a suggestion as to where the center line is going to be. So if you're doing this as a pillow, this could be a version of how you draw the pillow. Now, some of you might be like, oh, I want to twist it a little bit more, or oh, I want to give it a little bit more like plumpness. Then for sure, you can definitely go ahead and do that. But this is one way to do it. And if you're stuck, feel free to like just look at how I'm approaching it, and yeah. And then if you start feeling a little bit comfortable with or confident with it, feel free to jump in. Okay, so we're gonna start, and I guess, yeah, we're gonna get it going. And if you've never seen this website before, this is a website called Line of Action. They have a bunch of collection of images for you to kind of use, and there's this drawing kind of, I guess, drawing session that you can kind of set up that simulates a bit of a figure drawing session. So I've given you guys 1 minute because, you know, don't want to give you guys too much pressure, just in case you guys have never done this before, so that you guys can take your time. And for those who are like maybe just starting out in drawing, you can take it a little bit easier, because usually I would do these or set up these sessions for like maybe 15 seconds or 20 seconds. But since I don't know what the skill level of the people here are, I'm gonna keep it pretty a little bit longer, just so that there's a little bit more cushion and spacing for it. Okay, and then this one, we have a very straightforward one. Yeah, this lady, she is very muscular. For sure. My man's fighting air. Yeah. So this one's pretty simple, and I would say this one, try to focus on like how you're spotting and mapping out the silhouette of the body. Again, what you can look for is the silhouette of the figure. So the sides and like the shoulder angle, and you can kind of use a little bit of like this area over here to kind of track the figure. Yeah, so for any of those who don't know, I currently use Krita, and we actually get a little shout out. We actually released a Krita video just yesterday on my top brushes, and you can kind of see here I'm using one of them. Actually, let me use the default one so we can kind of get a feel for it. Show you guys how it's like. So this is kind of one of my favorite brushes here. It's called Charcoal Pencil Medium, and it's kind of one of my go-to brushes. What did I say? The first 6, right? Okay, this is like the third one. I guess when it hits reference image number 6, I'll go to the advanced or more complicated version. So I'm changing the weight of this one a little bit. So I'm still thinking of this as a pillow in a sense. So if you want to add like fold lines, or if you want to add kind of like a puffiness to the body or the pillow, you can, so that it simulates it a little bit. We can show you our level by sending images of our own. Yeah, you can. So that's kind of what our Discord is for sure. That is like one of like a good way of showcasing your stuff. If you're part of our members kind of membership, then you can get like live feedback from us instructors as well. But yeah, you know, since I am kind of like promoting this as like a way for you guys to participate, I will kind of keep an eye out for the digital submissions. If you guys want to throw your pieces into Discord, the member submissions, I will try to take a look at it. Tunisia, send you so much love. Oh, that's so cool. I don't think I've ever heard from anybody from Tunisia before. That's kind of neat. Yeah, so even though I'm not adding the ears to these sketches, I'm treating it like it's like a pillow, but without the ears and without the kind of like the flaps there. Recommend the server. Very fun, very chill. A bad hook when I see one. Yeah, I'm pretty sure like these people here, Kevin or Zipporah, do we have kind of like a quick link to kind of like the membership page? But yeah, these characters here, or these models, I'm pretty sure they are not proficient at whatever weapons or tools they're holding. It is merely just prop for people to hold, for them to hold. Oh, thanks, Vin. Oh, no shade, just find it funny. Oh no, for sure, yeah. It's cool that you can kind of spot it though. I wouldn't be able to tell for sure. Yeah. Cool. Yeah, so you can see Vin just summoned Nightbot, and Nightbot just posted a link for school. And on school, there's a few different tiers, but it's pretty straightforward for the most part. And when you sign up for our school, you also get membership. You get access to the members channel where you can talk to us instructors. You can post your work in the members critique, and each of us instructors have different days that we go on to give feedback. Actually, I guess while I'm talking, let me see. Yeah, this is our days. Oh, actually, that's old. Whoops. my days have changed. Actually, I now give feedback on Tuesdays, starting at 5. So if you want to kind of get feedback from me, I guess you just know that I go on at 5. Okay, so now that we're kind of done, I'm gonna move on to the harder versions of our pillows. What a great one to start off with. So, for example, this one, our pillow character, let's just say, is not a very flexible pillow. So I'm going to try to draw our pillow, trying to do this in a way that a pillow would be able to. So what this means is I'm going to change some of the angles. And what I'm really trying to pay attention is to the momentum and the general posture or pose that this pillow might have. So I can see that it's kind of balancing, and for a pillow, I would say that it's not able to really use both of its quote-unquote ears to reach forward into the same singular point. So I'm actually just going to have it balance on one arm, and I'm going to have the other half kind of reach up like this. So it kind of feels like it's doing a little bit of like a balance pose. And then same thing, very still similar to kind of like the simplified version, where I'm still looking at kind of like the silhouette, but now I am trying to interpret also the personality of this pose. So it's like, oh, how is he leaning onto the pole? What is kind of like the emphasis of this kind of pose, and what is the model doing? Now, your interpretation might be slightly different from mine, and that's totally okay. I think as long as the drawing makes sense and you can capture a little bit of the pillow's personality or the pose's personality while maintaining the structure of the pillow, then I think you would have done a good job of maintaining or like practicing this exercise, because there's only so much that you can really do with the pillow in terms of pushing the pose. So I'm going to try to do this, like it's really hunched over and leaning in, but I'm still trying to maintain the fluffiness of the pillow. It's elite pillow knowledge. Oh, thank you. I'm gonna maybe shrink this down a little bit so that I have a bit more space for the last like this one and the next few ones. And yeah, so same thing. This pose, I'm not going to be able to get the whole leg and the arm reaching together because the pillow just doesn't have that, let's say, flexibility or enough material. You know, the cloth sheet, the feathers inside of the pillow, it's just not enough for the pillow to do this. So what I'm really going to emphasize is more just the curve that's there. And I'm going to just emphasize how the pillow's maybe like, let's say the foot is reaching up, and maybe the here is really colliding in and meshing in with the in the center area. It's like we're trying to really do a crunch kind of a pose. And I'm going to flatten the bottom just to kind of simulate almost as if it's really pressed into the ground a little bit. And then this one's a little bit more straightforward. So this one, you don't have to include the wheelchair unless you want to. But this one, you can draw the pillow pretty much simply kind of just sitting there if you want to. This one might be a little bit of a nice breather and have a bit of the pillow just chilling. Yeah, it's good to get a little bit of, you know, kind of change or a change up in the poses and then the models. Might just have it sitting here, kind of like this. Okay, and there's two more. Oh, I'm almost out of space. I'm gonna try to draw it slightly smaller here. I'm gonna have this arm higher. So you can see I'm making like improvisations and changes to the pose that the pillow is doing because I'm considering the limitations of what the pillow can do. But this is a really, really good exercise for anybody who wants to get into like character design and animation, because it teaches you to think outside of the box and think of like, how would you interpret this as a character? Because if you think about like 2D animation, and you have to like animate your character, well, guess what? The footage that you find that's your reference is going to be like maybe you or the actor or the voice actor that's doing it. But the voice actor or you, whoever the reference is, may look completely different from the character that you're animating. So how do you still capture the acting and the performance of your reference, but make it translate into your character? And this is what the pillow exercise is great at doing. It teaches you to think beyond just what the reference is doing or how the reference looks, but try to kind of distill the essential information. So things like the gesture, the pose, the silhouette, and the line of action that the person is doing. So that's why I'm trying to look at like the weight, the like which leg is the person leaning on? Are they balanced? How are they balanced on like one arm and stuff like that? Has it changed over the years? I guess like instead of having to draw it though, it's a little bit different. So now with 3D animation, you still have to consider that you're gonna have like, I remember one of the first exercises we did for animation class, our project was to animate a pillow sack or a flour sack jumping from one spot to the other. And the flower can only bend in a certain way. So in a way it's a little bit different, but the concept's still kind of the same, where you're translating your reference and having a character with maybe different joints or different kind of body size or body type do the same movement. It's kind of like if you got a Olympic jumper jumping over like a chasm. It would look very different if you got a sumo wrestler jumping over the chasm. The pose and the gesture might be the same, but how they do it, the weight of how they do it, the timing is going to be a little bit different, because you have to compensate for the weight, you have to compensate for the body size, how maybe the weight of the arm swing is going to change the timing. All of that has to change depending on the character that you're animating. Okay, so, oh, thank you, Estella. But here are my, let's just change this up a bit. Here are my pillows for this exercise, and hopefully you guys kind of enjoyed this. As you can see, here are my more simplified versions, where I'm mostly, again, focusing, for any of those who kind of missed it in the beginning, I'm mostly focusing on the silhouette of the torso and kind of how it's bending and moving. But then here's the more complicated one for those who wanted to tackle this as well. So the concept is still the same, but now I'm adding a little bit more extra personality through like these little corner flaps, and adding a little bit more fold lines and a little bit of the squishy physicality that a pillow would have. A bean too, yeah. So the bean is like a totally great exercise to try out as well. But the pillow is one that I always love going back to. There's something really fun about seeing how much you can push the pillow to match the pose, but still maintaining the physical qualities and traits and limitations that a pillow has. And the bean exercise is also the same thing. It trains you to look beyond just copying the figure, but extracting the pose, the gesture, the momentum, the weight, the balance of the character, and translating to how a bean might do it. Okay, so the next exercise we're going to do is we're finally going to do some mannequin studies. So, let me see. Oh, drew it on the wrong one, I think. Or maybe, yeah, we'll do it here. So, we're still gonna... Really? The bean? I feel like the bean is a little bit more straightforward, because the pillow, you gotta include the flaps and you gotta include the squishiness of it. But a bean is a little bit more rigid in a way. I guess you can kind of argue that the bean is more geometrical in a way. If you're focusing more on the volume and the perspective of the bean, then I can kind of see how that could be harder if that's your focus. But the pillow exercise, kind of like how I mentioned here, the goal is to translate the pose, and but also still maintain the characteristics of the pillow. So it's like different kind of things. They might seem similar, they might look very similar in terms of like on the surface. It's like, oh, you're just taking a figure and simplifying, but they kind of train different things. I would say that the bean trains more of your volume and the circumference and the center line, so it's a bit more technical. The pillow exercise, still technical, but the emphasis is more on the gesture and the performance and the character rather than the technicalities like perspective and volume. Although those things can definitely still help your execution of how well you draw the pillow, but I don't think it's not as much of the focus, let's just say. But still both really good exercises. So the next one is, yes, the mannequin, and this one is called I call it the simplified mannequin. Yeah, so this is the more simplified mannequin, and I call it the simplified because you really are just mapping out the silhouette of the body, so the torso, and then you're turning the legs and the arms into stick legs, or stick arms and legs, and the hands and the feet into these simple kind of blocks. And the head is just, you can kind of treat it as more of like a block shape if you'd like. So a few things to just keep in mind. Try to balance out the sense of proportion a little bit when doing this exercise. So just keep in mind that the human body proportion is roughly half. From the head to the toe, the groin area is usually the halfway point. And your arms, they should feel like if your arms were come down, it would sit around the halfway point of your thighs. And your torso, try to keep it like two squares stacked on top of each other. So this is kind of the torso shape. And again, this exercise is great for anyone who doesn't really have perspective nailed down too well. Its focus is more on the angles of the shoulders and the silhouette. So your focus is really more on these qualities. So I'm going to write those down. So the mannequin study is for slowly introducing... Oh, let me swap that back. Slowly introducing the figure. Start focusing on the torso, and the focus is really more on the silhouette and the angle of the shoulders. Oops. Angle of shoulders. Okay, and the reason why I love this exercise is because, yeah, for sure, all of these exercises that I'm about to do, if you want to follow it, feel free to follow it. You don't have to. You can still just watch or chill or just leave the... I know a lot of you guys like to leave the stream on the side while you're doing your own thing, but yeah, you can follow along if you want to. And the other thing is that the real focus, or the real kind of benefit that I kind of love about this exercise, is that because you don't have to draw the volume of the arms, it actually trains you to think more about the trajectory of the limbs. A lot of the times what I see from students and also some of our members is that in their characters and the figures that they draw, they tend to bend the arm, or they kind of curve the structure and the trajectory of the arms, meaning that the arms kind of look a little bit like noodles, and they'll be like, oh, well, here's the elbow joint, and then here is the hand. And I don't know, let's say they're giving it like a thumbs up or something. Now, this could easily really work if you're doing something more cartoony and more gestural and kind of goofy in a way. But if you're trying to work on your technical skills and your understanding of how the figure is broken down, I would actually say focus more on tracking the joints and the direction and the straight lines that your figure is doing. So again, going back to the notes that I mentioned at the very beginning, we're focusing on how to simplify and break things down into simple shapes, meaning like the torso is turned into a simple kind of box shape, and the head is just a box or a square, and then the arms are just lines. So we're learning how to simplify, and we're using very straight, direct lines to map out the arms, rather than trying to figure out things like the muscles or the bones or the fleshiness of the figure. I see we got a question here. Oh, also, you said, kind of do the bean mostly after seeing how Don Bluth used it in All Dogs Go to Heaven. For sure, like, I think some of the older animation kind of, let's say, the underlying structure in a lot of animated films back in the day leaned more into things like using the ball or the bean. And I think the misconception is that that is how you should start off. I think if you're in the beginners side of art and you're just starting off, using the bean and using things that are very structural and very like technical, things like spheres and tracking the volume of spheres, is actually a really hard way of understanding how to block out a figure. So I actually prefer using squares and blocks and pillows that are a bit more square-like, a little bit more rigid, a little bit more boxy in nature, because using lines is much easier to draw than curves, because lines are more direct and straight to the point, whereas curves can be a little bit ambiguous in terms of how it's bending. So that's why I recommend using more like prism-like shapes rather than spheres, because spheres can be a little bit up in the air. It can be a little bit gestural. But that's not to say that the bean method isn't good, or that when you see animators using things like spheres or beans that it isn't good. It's just that they're using it because they have the technical skills for them to pull it off, and that they've been using it for so long that they're used to understanding the size that they're using to draw it out. But also using spheres is a little bit more of an old school method. I think it's now a little bit more quote-unquote accepted to use both the sphere or the prism. It's not that one is better than the other. Both have kind of their pros and cons. Yeah. What would you recommend for animal characters, anthropomorphic and normal ones? You can still practice the same thing. So with an animal, you can still practice mapping out, like, let's say the dog, right? So let's say it's a dog. You can still map out things like the trajectory of the head to the neck. You can still map out kind of like the shape of the body, and the arms and the legs might be a little bit different. You might have to make them a little bit more animalistic in terms of how they're positioned onto the animal. But yeah, it'll be the same kind of idea. So just, yeah, that's the other thing too. Circles, you can spend forever trying to make it a perfect circle, but with a square, it's much more cleaner. It's much more straightforward, and it takes less time. So unless you're really good at drawing circles, circles can take up a lot of time, especially if you're doing like timed figure sessions. Let's see. Cupcake asks, do you think you can also show how you'd break down the segments of the body of the mannequin into simple 3D forms? Yeah, sure, I can do that after the mannequin exercise. We'll start off the simplified, but then we can go into showing you how I would break it down into a more complicated mannequin. Just to show it. I don't think I'll use it as one of the exercises, but I'll kind of show you how I would do it. Okay, so with the mannequin, what else? Lines for more direct angles and builds confidence. This is really the main one that I want you guys to kind of, essentially through all these exercises, I want you guys to build confidence in how you're observing the references. Build confidence. And I always say this a lot of the times, which is like, build confidence in how you observe references. A lot of us like to focus on copying, but a lot of us don't focus on observing well. And hopefully with these exercises, it teaches you to observe the important elements of a figure. So we're still going to bring over stuff that we were doing in the pillow exercise, things like the gesture, the silhouette, the curving nature of it, the very stylized poses that are there, but we're now going to add a bit of structure, quote-unquote structure, to it. But yeah, that's kind of what we're going to be doing, and let's do the next one. So this one was the pillow exercise. And then the next one we're gonna do is the mannequin, simplified mannequin exercise. Hopefully you guys are enjoying this and you guys are getting some mileage in your drawing. We're gonna do the same thing, keep it at maybe like 13 minutes. Yeah, we're gonna do 13 of these, so it's 13 minutes, and then we'll kind of kick off with 2 more exercises for us to do, and we're gonna end off with a bit of like a portrait kind of study exercise. But yeah. Oh, before I start, let's see. What kind of graphic tablet do you recommend, size, type, etc.? So currently I'm using the XPPen Artist 15.6 Pro. 15.6 is just kind of the dimensions of it. I would say that depending on your workspace, you don't need a really, really large tablet. Something that my professor told me in animation was, I was like, you know what? I never thought of that, but that makes a lot of sense. A lot of people get these really, really massive tablets, but then if you think about it, you really only draw on one section of your tablet, which is the middle. You don't draw on every portion of the tablet. You always zoom in and you zoom out and zoom in on the part that you're going to work on, and that's the middle of your tablet. You don't really draw on any other part of the tablet. So having a really, really, really large tablet is really, if you get it, the only real goal that or point of getting such a large tablet is just for the screen size. Yeah, it's more convenient because you can put more things onto your tablet, but for the most part, you can get away with a smaller size tablet. I think 13 or 15 inches is perfectly doable. It's a good size. It's not too big, not too small. I think any smaller would be a little bit of a nuisance, but I think 13 or 15 is a good working size. Yeah. Let me see. Will there be a new Krita tutorial? Yeah, I mean, if you guys have any recommendations for a type of Krita tutorial video that you'd like to see, let me know, or let us know. We're always looking for new video ideas. We just released a Krita brush video, but yeah, I mean, if you guys have any certain topics you would like for me to cover in a new Krita video, I'd love to do it. I love Krita. I think more people should use Krita. Krita is a very, I feel like it's still, I think, underrated. Most people still use the like Clip Studio or Photoshop to draw, and I think like Krita should also have its day in the sun too, you know. Where am I getting these poses from? Oh yeah, sure, for sure. Yeah, so this is, you don't have to open the page up, but if you'd like to kind of do your own poses, this is the website that I'm using. It's called Line of Action. So if you want to do it on your own time, this is the website that I use for these poses. Okay, so we're gonna start, and well, again, we'll do this for 15 or 13 minutes, and we're gonna start now. What is a good brush for line art? It really kind of depends on what you like. So I'm a more traditional artist. So if you're like me and you're a more traditional artist, I like this brush here called Charcoal Pencil Thin. Or Charcoal Pencil Medium, actually, not thin. And the reason why is because I love more traditional type brushes rather than more digital feeling brushes. So I'm always looking for brushes that feel like charcoal or pencil crayon or just like pencil. Kind of has a bit of like graininess to them and whatnot. Maybe a good way to make speed paints. I've never used Sai before, but I do hear that it's pretty good, especially if you want a more painterly kind of software. I had a friend who had it, but I personally have never used it myself. So this is where that whole kind of tip where I was saying, like, you can always go back and look at your references, because I'm not going to include the ballerina dress here. I'm actually just going to draw the figure as is. So I'm kind of mapping out where the shoulders are on the corner of the box. I'm just mapping out the trajectory. So I'm looking at where the center of the shoulder is, where the center of the elbow is, and the direction and angle that the hand is moving in. And even though it might not be super accurate or look like kind of like a real human per se, this is totally usable down the line. So if I'm like stuck and I need to use like or find more references, I can use this as a bit of a guide. I don't know what the other leg was doing, but I will just make it up. And same thing, even for a pose that is sitting, I'm just going to look at the shoulders, how it's angled. Look at the back. Look at how their back is arched over here and roughly where maybe the bottom of their butt would be. And I'm going to mark out that this is the pose of the body, of the torso. And then I'm going to mark that this is where the shoulder is. And if you want to mark the spine, you can totally do that as well. And I'm going to drop in where the angle of the arms are. And pay attention to the relationship between the elbows. Notice how like one elbow is positioned higher than the other one. I'm just going to quickly draw the legs. Love ink style brushes. I just have a grungy, scratchy style. Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, so I can give you a one that I like to use personally. If you're more inky, there's this brush called Bristles 1 Details. Here, I can use it and draw for you so you can kind of see what it looks like. I love how, like, if you zoom in, it looks a little bit more kind of like you're drawing on acetone paper. Is it acetone paper or vellum? Not acetone, vellum paper. So vellum paper is a little bit kind of milky almost looking. It's a little bit translucent. So you can see that it's a little bit different from my charcoal one. This one has a little bit of like these streaks or strokes inside of them. And the brushes is a little bit more solid. And if I press harder, I get these thick lines. So there's a little bit of almost like inconsistency with these. I found one on my software called Charcoal Mod I really like. Oh, nice. Yeah, glad you were able to find a brush that you really like. I think, you know, so in our brush video, if you are still having trouble looking for a brush on Krita, I highly recommend you go watch it, not just because it's a video that I had a part in making, but I think it's really good for anybody who's like not too sure about jumping into Krita and not too sure about like what brush to start off with. And ultimately, the main takeaway from that video is like once you get a brush going, or once you have a brush chosen, you're kind of set. You don't really have to. Once I pick my brushes, I haven't really gone and looked for any other brushes. I still try new brushes out, but I'm not constantly looking for a brush. Once you find a brush that really suits your style, you kind of just stick with it. In the pillow method, is there a difference in the male and females? No, I kind of treat it the same. You could make the female pillows more curvy, I guess, but you don't have to. There's no like rule that you have to make the gender noticeable in the pillow studies. You're almost, actually, I would say, leave it more ambiguous so that when you come back to these figures, you can kind of almost map them out however you want. And you can start adding bits of curves in the limbs if you really want to. It'll add a little bit of just like an organic feel to your brushes or to your figures. See how much space. Okay, we got 7. I'm gonna shrink these a little bit down. Oh, okay. I use Procreate's ink brush. Is a nice dry ink texture that's works very much. Nice. Yeah, I know that Procreate has some really nice brushes, and I'm kind of jealous because although as much as I love Krita's default brushes, there is a little bit of something missing in their brushes. I think there's like a little bit of a limitation for what you can do with the brushes. They're still great, don't get me wrong, but I've seen some of the Procreate brushes and the texture complications look really nice in it. Um, but I'm pretty sure like you can probably do something really close to it on Krita. I just haven't taken the time to look at how that would work. But I think you can already do a lot with just the default brushes. And that was kind of like the point of the video, is to show people that like no matter what brush you use, Krita will probably have it on default. And if anything, you can always adjust the settings, the brush settings, to get it to really flow and work the way that you want it to. Oh, also, how much anatomy knowledge does one need when drawing? I always end up wanting to know all down to bone names. Honestly, when it comes to drawing, you really just need to know the surface level for the bones or for anatomy. Obviously, the more you know, it could be helpful for certain things. I don't think you need to know like names of the anatomy parts. I mean, it's useful to know them, but I don't think it's needed for drawing because that's not really the focus when we're drawing. We're not trying to memorize the names of them. So for example, like when I'm drawing this, I'm using anatomy to help guide how I'm drawing, but I'm not like when I'm drawing it, I'm not going like, oh, there's the scapula. Okay, I just placed down the sternocleidomastoid. Okay, I just put down the, I don't know, the humerus bone. Like, I mean, you could, that's a good way of practicing and memorizing, but you don't have to. But yeah, anatomy is good, and it's good to kind of know at least the surface information for anatomy, but you don't need to know like all the way down to like the tendons and the functionality of the muscles. Like, it's good to know, don't get me wrong. You can still definitely know them and practice in figuring them out, but it's not needed, it's not necessary. What is it? Oh, do not need to put a bow on the mouse in this case. Does anybody know the difference between Procreate and Procreate Dreams? Procreate Dreams is the animation portion of it. Yeah, like Mr. Half said. If it's worth it, already has an anime. Yeah, animation. There's already an animation tool in Procreate itself, but I guess the animation portion that they made Dreams was technically made to be a little bit more accommodating for animators. But I've heard some mixed things about it. I've heard that it's still great, but it's just not what people were expecting from a animation focused. When do you open each broadcast? So on Saturdays we stream at 3 p.m. Eastern time. So right now for me it's 4 o'clock. So if you're not too sure, you can kind of see what the time difference is. But it's 4:12 right now for me. And then, which is Eastern time, which is the time that we all kind of go live here at Wing Canvas, because we're based in Toronto. And then on Mondays, we stream at 12 p.m. Eastern time. So if any of you are free on Mondays, we also go live on Mondays. And I'm going to try to remember to, but usually I will say what the next stream is, so that you guys can kind of go in ahead of time knowing what to look forward to. I need some self-control when learning new things. No, I think that totally makes sense. Sometimes we learn a new thing and it's like, oh my gosh, I just want to like practice it and I want to try it out. Um, and I think that's a good thing. I think that means there's like a hunger to learn and a hunger to improve and add a new kind of almost toolkit or skill set into your tool belt and try it out. I'm surprised we haven't gotten the big guy. So usually in line of action, this website, there's a really big guy with a kind of a ponytail. I haven't seen him in a while, but he's a good one to draw. He has a little bit of a larger body mass, and it's a good way to kind of practice someone of a larger build. I don't know, maybe me saying this now, he'll be the next one coming up. Biologist does baller art if they have the skill, but it is not at all. Yeah, there's a lot of scientists who are also like really good at drawing too. The timer is there. Is there a way to slow it down a bit? Yeah, so you can adjust manually what the timer is. I'll show you guys how the timer can be adjusted on this website. If anybody is kind of like anybody like, oh, I like this website and I want to use it, but it's a little bit too fast. We're just running it a little bit on the faster side just to make up for time. But you guys, if you want to do this on your own, you can definitely change the timer so it's not this fast. It is not permanently set to the time that I have it running at currently. But hopefully you guys enjoyed this exercise and enjoyed kind of doing these figure studies with me. And we're going to move on to the next exercise soon. Which day of the week is your Monday? I guess it would still be Monday? I don't know. I don't think I have necessarily like a specific day of the week. Okay, so here, this is what the website looks like for line of action, and you can adjust what type of models you get and some of like other settings that you can adjust. But in regards to time, this is for if you want to manually set each individual time. So all the poses that we've been doing, they've all been like 1 minute long, and that's because I've set it to 60 seconds. Now you can increase that interval to like 2 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes. And if there's a very specific time, you can also set it to custom time, and you can kind of set like how many of these you do, and also like how long they are. So this is a really cool one that you can do. And then if there's a time here that's already set for you, you can also select like how many images that you do. So all the time settings here, you don't have to set it to the time that I did, but just in case for anybody who wants to try this on their own. And then we have, these are my mannequin studies. So hopefully these kind of got you guys warmed up and you're having fun with this. We're gonna do maybe one more for like, let's say 15 minutes, and then we're gonna go do some portrait study exercises. So these are how mine turned out, and you can see that I'm mostly focusing on the pose and the gesture and the personality of them, not so much the like anatomy or like the accuracy of anatomy. Again, the whole point of this is knowing how to simplify the pose, looking for things like the angles of the shoulders, angles of the waist, the silhouette of the torso, so like the chest and a little bit of the abdomen and the waist, and then also focusing on mapping out the trajectory and the angles of the hands and the arms and the legs, rather than getting caught up on nitty-gritty details. So I love this exercise because it really is a very straightforward, simple one that doesn't require too much brain power compared to some other exercises out there that you can do, but it's still a great way of training yourself to simplify the figure that you see without losing kind of like the essential bits that you need to practice. So yeah, pretty straightforward exercise, hopefully a little bit more straightforward, but you still get it in a way kind of say that you practice figure drawing. So I'm just kind of catching up on chat. Yeah, oh, we have 8 instructors and we have 10 staff. Dang, some of them are also like our mods as well. So yeah, give a shout out to our mods. Okay, so the next exercise, this is gonna be our second last one. Let me see, and it was this one that I wanted to show you guys. This next exercise is going to be more about like capturing the silhouette and the form of the models that you see. So I really love this exercise. It still is a little bit reminiscent of, oh, actually before, I just totally forgot, but someone asked like, oh, how do you do a mannequin study? So we'll do that. Let me bring back up. Here, let's find an image. Yeah, sure, this is a good one. So someone asked like, oh, how do I do personally, how do I do a mannequin study? And so for me, I'm not going to spend too much time on it, but what I personally love to do or like to do is kind of map out like the shape of the head. If you want to start off with the mannequin like someone suggested, you can. So gesture line or line of action is to capture the momentum and the movement or the energy that the pose might have. And I'm just going to draw it really quickly, not going to spend too much time trying to map out the figure too much, but I'm going to treat the head more in a boxy shape. And for anybody who's ever seen faces be broken down in a boxy shape and you're always wondering like, wait, how does that work? What is the point of that? The box is really there just to help you map out the angle that the head is turning in. So I now have kind of like the head shape blocked out. I'm going to move down to like the shoulders, and I'm going to pay attention to the 2 points of the shoulders, and I'm going to exaggerate it a little bit. So I'm going to angle it a little bit more. Maybe I'm actually going to lower it a little bit, have it be like here. And once I have the angle of the shoulder, and feel free to make them longer than you think you need to make them. And then I'm going to map out the body shape or the body size. So this person, actually when I first was drawing this person in the simplified mannequin pose, I drew it actually with the torso bending in the other direction, but after looking at it, I'm like, you know what? I should have emphasized it bending more like this. So what I like to emphasize more is the pose and the silhouette of the body, and still start off with something simple, kind of like this. And we can still start off with how we did it with the simplified ones, looking at where the elbow is. And again, I'm treating the torso as if like 2 squares are kind of like stacked on top of each other. I'm just going to map out the trajectory of the arms. But this time, because there's a little bit more time, I'm going to give myself some time in mapping these out a little bit more accurately than I usually would. And I'm looking at the relationship of the shoulders and then the hands here. And then let's see. So the waist is a little bit interesting. You do have to kind of add it back in if you are going to do this type of a mannequin pose. So if you do the torso kind of like what I did here, it's not exactly, it doesn't encompass the up to the groin. It kind of cuts off right around here where my mouse is. So if you are blocking it out in a mannequin like form, you will want to include a bit of like this underwear kind of diaper shape here. Then I'm gonna add in the legs, and I'm gonna kind of look at where the knee is in relationship to the face. So the face is kind of here, and the knee is kind of past it a little bit. So I'm gonna put it here. And I'm kind of just eyeballing this because the goal of this is not necessarily to have it be accurate, but I want to show you like how a technical mannequin study can still be gestural in how it's done. And then the next thing I'm going to look at is the relationship of the heights of the foot. So the foot is like here, and then this one kind of sticks out a little bit around here. So maybe I might raise this up a little bit higher to be something like that. Let's see. Oh, I actually have my speakers muted, so I don't know what song's playing, but yeah, hopefully you like the background music that's playing. Yeah, go mods, shout out to the mods. I think that making certain areas like the head or legs behind or in front of each other is hard for me. How do I practice that? Behind or in front, like the head, or like the head slouched back or forwards. Oh, yeah, that's a good question. I can try to. Okay, so in terms of like depth, it's all about kind of where you like what is overlapping each other. So for example, if I want the shoulder to feel like it's behind the body, I'm going to let me clean up the torso a bit. This is the torso shape. Then if I draw the circle behind the torso, then this feels like this shoulder is behind the shoulder is behind the chest. And if I draw the shoulder sphere in front of the torso box, then it appears that we have like an order of objects. We have the shoulder, then the chest, then the other shoulder. So that's like that's kind of how I would kind of go about it. Every pose is going to be different, but it's always about overlap and how you're positioning the different kind of parts of the body. And then, so now we're going to detail it. And I'm just going to add a little bit of the limbs to it. No, so today's stream is more about like exercises. So it's not, I'm not drawing like props or anything. So, but if you have any question more related to like mannequins or figures, I'm down to answer them. Okay, so this one, I think I moved the arm a little bit too far up, so I'm actually going to reposition the upper arm down here. And you'll notice that I'm not drawing the volume of the arms, and that's because I think it's more important to capture the silhouette and the boxiness rather than trying to capture like an accurate volume. You can add the volume and indications of volumes afterwards, but I don't think you need it right from the get-go. So I'm actually going to lower this leg a little bit. So here's one of the legs, and then here's the other one. And so you can kind of see I'm using a bit more of like a triangle or trapezoid type of approach here. So I'm not really trying to capture the volume. I'm really more trying to capture the shape and using the angles that I had here to map out the form. I don't think we have any plans at the moment to draw like weapons or anything, but usually we include weapons in the stream if it works for the character or works for the type of stream subject that we're doing. But I don't think we have any plans to specifically draw like weapons, but weapons are always included. Yeah. Always add details later. Yeah, exactly. If you don't have the structure figured out and mapped out, then adding any kind of excess details like clothing, bones, muscles is not going to work out too well. So definitely figuring out this stuff first is always a better idea to do. I guess we won't do the extra bonus exercise. So I was gonna do some exercise in regards to this one. I'll show you guys how this exercise works, but I don't think we have time to do it because I want to do a little bit of like a portrait exercise. So this exercise trains you to not look at the things like the torso or the bones or the limbs or anything like that, but to group it all and make it a combined shape. So I'll kind of show you what that means or how that looks. So what I would do for this person here is I want to kind of look at any kind of trajectory that's happening. She's leaning forwards like quite a lot, but her head and her hand and her legs creates this nice, really straight line here. So I'm going to transform this into just a straight shape. Maybe add a flat line there and kind of build this trajectory out. Yeah, so our Saturday streams, if you are not too sure, we stream on Saturdays at 3 p.m. Not all the time. Sometimes I have drawn like architecture, sometimes we've done like anthropomorphic type characters. My focus is a little bit more on human type characters, so that's why most of the times that's what I'm drawing, but it's not always the case. Just gonna move it back. There we go. Here, maybe we can add a bit of this like piece right here. So this exercise might look kind of like, oh, what the heck? Like, what is this kind of exercise? Like, what are we doing here? Why would I want to do an exercise like this? And this is like really good for kind of forcing you to simplify what it is that you look at. If you are someone who has trouble kind of going like, oh, how do I connect things, or looking for connections in a figure or a pose that you might have a hard time looking for, then this is a great exercise for that. Kind of finding connections and points to connect that that aren't explicitly there. So what I mean is, like, it's very easy to draw a connection line from the shoulder to the hand, but connecting the head to the hand to the knees to the foot, that's what's happening in this pose. That might not always be like straightforward, but if you push yourself to kind of look for these shapes or look for these connections, you'll have a easier time simplifying forms, but also creating interesting silhouettes and shapes that actually also might be really good at helping you expand and creating interesting characters or forms that might not be kind of like the first go-to option. Yeah, so like Leia here, you're like, oh, it looks like the R in Team Rocket. And I feel like that's kind of the great thing about this exercise, is it kind of gets you to look at a reference in a different perspective and from a different angle that you might not have initially had when you first looked at the reference. So it's all about using kind of straight trajectory lines to build out forms. So it's the same thing with this one too. The goal is not to be like very perfect or careful with your drawing, but be like, oh, how would I simplify what it is that I'm seeing here? And it's like, oh, there's an interesting shape that's kind of made here. It's kind of neat. Yeah, so I don't think we have any intention at the moment to focus on any kind of like videos on drawing weapons, but I don't know. We could kind of discuss it amongst the team, but at the moment, not to my knowledge that we have any kind of focus on learning something like that or going through topics like that at the moment. It's not that it's a bad topic or anything, but it's just not, I don't think it's one that we are preparing for. This is, I mean, that's why I asked. Oh, okay, sure. Yeah. So I go in a lot. Josh draws people normally. Yeah, I focus more on characters and people. But I also, depending on the topic that's kind of set up for our streams, I might draw something like vehicles or buildings. Sometimes I'll do environmental studies, but my focus or my focal point primarily is usually people. Yeah. Controversial title too. Yeah, and shoes. Exactly, and shoes. But yeah, so sometimes I do draw different stuff too. So this one, oh, actually, let me show you an example of what we're going to be doing. And I'll bring this over here so that you can kind of keep track of what it is that I'm drawing in case I'm zooming out a lot. But these were two references that I had on me. And I thought that the shape of these faces were really, really cool. And do I do the streams usually now? I think we're just changing up the styles or the teachers and the schedule a little bit. But yeah, I'll be streaming on Saturdays a little bit here and there. But yeah, so these were some references that I found, and I think a really, really great exercise that I think a lot of people should do, and I think is a great way of figuring out your style and also being able to loosen up, is to do portrait studies, but experiment with the style and the approach of how you do them. So a lot of the times when we try to learn how to draw faces, we get very caught up on the technicalities of the face, like proportions and measurements and styles, but in this kind of approach, or in this session right here, in our final session to finish up the stream, I want you guys to try to experiment with the faces that I'm about to show you. And I have a good kind of collection. Maybe we'll spend like, we'll do like 3 of them. And I want you guys to try to experiment with the shapes and the forms that we've been kind of practicing in our figures, but now apply it to these references. And when I found these photos, I really like the shape of it. I like the lighting. And I see here is like, oh, how do I usually look for references? Pinterest is a good one. And, you know, I still use like Instagram every now and then. And I try to, and if I get like recommendations for like photographers or anybody who's kind of like a model, I'll kind of look through and see what, like how they look. Try to look for either, you know, I don't know, if they're like attractive, or they have an interesting face, or there's interesting lighting. But yeah, I took these references, and this is how I stylized them. And if you saw our video, Creative Brush video, you'll notice that these are the 2 models that I used to help demonstrate the different brushes. But yeah, this is kind of how I sometimes will stylize. I don't always stylize faces in this way. If you saw here, this is another example of also how I stylize my portraits. So this is a pencil crayon study that I stylized, a little bit more on the realistic side. Then here's a bit more line focused, a bit more like looser line work in terms of stylization. And then here is a bit more improvised ink work style that I do. That's kind of actually inspired by an artist called Yoji Shinkawa. So if you know Death Stranding, or more commonly known property, Metal Gear Solid, he's kind of like the primary artist for those games, and this was kind of inspired by his style. So whenever I'm doing kind of portrait studies, I'm always kind of practicing and experimenting. So that's kind of what I want to encourage for you guys as well, is to, like, when we do these portraits, to try to experiment, have some fun. And so we're going to end off in this section of trying to experiment and try things out. And so again, feel free to hop on and follow along with me if you'd like, or if not, feel free to just hang around. And yeah, you can definitely turn off the AI function in on Krita, which is very, very helpful. Okay, so I am gonna try to keep the whole page visible so that so you can still see the drawing and the reference, as well as for myself. I'm gonna keep it a little bit rough and sketchy. Not gonna have any particular time saved, but I want to play around with shapes a little bit. Gonna be a little bit more caricature focused on this one. I'm gonna keep an eye on time. I'm gonna give us roughly, maybe, let's say 10 minutes, and then we'll have another 10 minutes, and then it'll be end of stream. Yeah. Oh no, not on Krita. AI on Pinterest. Yeah. On Pinterest, you have the option of turning off the AI function. I forgot how you can do it, but I'm pretty sure it's in like settings, and in personalization you have the ability to go there and turn it off. So if you don't want to support the AI function on Krita, definitely go and you can turn it off. So basically it tries to do as best as it can to filter out any of like AI features that it sees. It's not perfect by any means, but I would say that it does a pretty decent job of it. And I'm gonna try to go in this approach where I don't erase too much. Like, I don't try to redraw it. I'm going to erase some stuff here and there, but I'm not going to try to take away too much. And I really like how long and smug his face looks. I really love this kind of shape that's created by him, kind of, I don't know, chewing on this like cigarette. So I kind of want to capture how long and how bony kind of his face is. How kind of jaggedy his face is. And that snarl is like really cool. So very similar to our figure study and our pillow study, I'm extracting what I find interesting. I'm extracting the character or the personality that I see. I'm not so much focused on like the technicalities per se, but it's more about like, oh, I really like certain elements here. I want to see if I can capture it. Let's see. Oh, guess you like searching in darkness through the night. Please get the reference. I don't get the reference. Just one more heist. Oh yeah, for sure. I think like AI fatigue has definitely become a thing. Really push how crooked his face looks, regardless of whether it like is symmetrical or anything. I like how kind of twisted up the face is. So if you have seen my last stream, you'll know that like, oh, I did these like anime style looking eyes and all that, and this one looks completely different from that. So this is kind of why I love experimenting, is because you never know how experimenting might change and push the way you draw and what new skills you might learn. A lot of times I think a lot of people think like, oh, to gain a new drawing skill, you got to draw the same style and same approach over and over again. And I actually think that's not the case. The best way I think to gain a new skill is to try to break the rules that you've set for yourself. So instead of trying to draw over and over again one style, try to branch out into like a different style and see what happens if you draw it a little bit differently. Lyrics in Snake. Oh, I never said I was a Metal Gear fan. I said I was a fan of Yoji Shinkawa, so it's a little, yeah, it's a little different. I've actually never played Metal Gear Solid before. I would like to. I mean, they did have that new remake, so I wouldn't mind like playing it. Unfortunately, I don't have like any like PlayStation or like a newer console to play it in, but yeah, I would love to get into it because it was a series that I never got to dabble in, and I always wish that I got a chance to play it. But I love just Yoji Shinkawa's work as just as an artist, as an appreciator of art. I love his stuff. Playing one of the games simultaneously really cool and stupidly fun. Yeah, no, I really want to play it for sure. I've seen some of the clips and it just looks so over the top and goofy, but in like a really nice, like in a fun way. So yeah, for sure, I definitely want to play and check out Metal Gear Solid eventually, for sure. Let's make his hat a little wider. A little wider. Kind of want to play up how, like, the crookedness of his pose. So I'm gonna make it like asymmetrical. So really trying to play up just kind of how swerved his head is. So even though it's not symmetrical, I think it totally is fine because it kind of matches just the crookedness of his face. Yeah, so these are studies that I love to do personally on my own time. I actually have like a dedicated moleskin that I use, or any kind of sketchbook is totally fine. You don't have to have like a fancy bougie sketchbook dedicated to doing exercises like this. But I would say find a sketchbook where you can like do these kind of exercises without any kind of like pressure, and you can kind of just like go at it and really experiment. And that's really the name of the game here, is just like try things out, try out different line work. Sometimes it's going to look great, sometimes it's going to look terrible, but the real goal of this is to try things out. I really should do practice drawings like this. Yeah, I would love to, if you guys share. I think on YouTube there is now an ability to share your drawings. So I think if you want to share and you don't have us on Discord, or you just aren't able to post on Discord, I think you are able to share on YouTube. Although there was one of our like viewers was like, oh, I posted on community and I tried looking for it, but I couldn't find it for some reason. So Shadowbean, if you're there, I really tried looking for your drawing. I couldn't find your animation though, but I tried looking for it on YouTube. So I don't know if you're watching or if you end up watching this, but yeah. I like the main villain vibe you gave him. Definitely look like he's has a vendetta against some hero guy. Oh, thank you, thank you. Yeah, yeah. I'm kind of liking how this turned out too. I was not I honestly also did not know how this would turn out. Okay, let me see. Okay, we got 15 minutes. Oh, I did I did Cupcake. Yeah, so I guess I'll show it to you real quickly, but if anything you can go back on the VOD and watch it. But this is what I did for the mannequin breakdown. So it takes what we did with the simplified mannequin, and you can kind of see the angle of the limbs here and how I added these more trapezoid type shapes around those angles of the limbs, so you build out a little bit more volume. So you're just taking some like the simplified mannequin and you're building on top of it a little bit more. And I think like this is like a good amount. When does the next camp start? Oh, if you're talking about the animation or character design camps, those start in like July. Right now we have classes going on, but I guess at the moment, I'm not focusing too much on like cartooning and character design. We're focusing more on facial features. If anybody wants to hop on and learn about facial features, we just went through eyes and nose, and we're gonna go through ears and mouth, and then we're gonna put all the facial features together. But in regards to the character design camp, those usually run at the beginning of July, based on like how we usually run them in like past years. That's kind of usually when we run them. Yeah. Okay, so we'll move on to the next one. Like I said, I don't think we have too much time, so let me see. Let me know which ones you guys want to do, or maybe I'll just pick one. We did a, swarmy cowboy guy, so this is the next one. Maybe we'll do her. Actually, I think that's pretty good. There's mustache guy. I'll upload these later on, so if you guys want to use these reference photos to draw, feel free to use these. I will post this up after our stream, but I think we'll just work with this one as our last piece before our stream ends. And maybe I'll put this, put it over here. Do we have to pay for the camps? Yes, the camps are paid, required. Just like classes. Okay, so this is our last one before we end stream, and I really like how her hair kind of wraps back around towards her head, so I think that's what I'm gonna focus on. And really just let's play around with this style. And every time I go into these exercises and these drawings, I don't know how they're gonna turn out. And that's kind of like the best thing about these exercises, is that I want you guys, when you go in to do these, like, go like, I don't know how it's gonna go out, but there's some shape in these drawings that really speak to me, and let's see what happens if I use that to guide all my drawing decisions and all the creative choices that I make. And I think that's kind of what really sets apart the drawings. So she has a really big cleft chin. Let's kind of mold that a little bit. Let's make the brush bigger. Just gonna fill this out just like with the cowboy guy. Just gonna block it all in just to speed up time. Keeping this fairly rough too. I know that near the beginning of the cowboy guy, I was like, oh, I'm gonna try without making any adjustments or changes. I think I went back on that pretty quickly, so I'm still gonna make changes and adjustments, but I'm really just trying to go with the flow, trying to do these as best as I can, and see what we get, see what results we get. Mustache of Devious Desires and Grit. That's a fun name. That's a really good name. That's that's cool. I don't know if it's from somewhere, but that's a cool name. And if you're wondering, like, oh, Josh, how do you like decide what shape to use? How do you decide what, like, how did you like come up with this design or quote unquote design? It's the principles are still the same as what I did with the pillow, with the figures, the mannequin. Like, the idea is to look for connecting forms and shapes and see where you're able to find connections and combine them and create these interesting kind of just like characters and silhouettes with them. And depending on your style and depending on your influences and inspirations, they might look a little bit different from mine. But everybody's gonna have a little bit of a different take. She has a really kind of dour, down on her luck kind of look, so I want to really capture that. Trust in the eraser tool. Politely decline the Control Z. Oh, No problem, Saran. Glad you're able to join us. Hope you enjoyed these lessons. I feel like I drew like a darker version of the Mona Lisa. You know. But yeah, I do totally agree. Definitely try using more and trust more in the eraser tool than Control Z. I love relying only on the eraser tool. It's a great tool to use. Ooh, this more chiseled face is a little bit more interesting. Ooh, I like this one. This is neat. And like I said, this is what I mean, but like I don't know how these are gonna turn out, and I'm kind of just discovering and figuring these out as I go. And I think this is kind of cool. There's a interesting kind of shape kind of being made here. Let me see. Top of the head. Let's flatten that a little bit. Hey, there we go. Matricia Adams. Yeah, no, for sure. I don't have a webhook permission. Oh, that's weird. I don't know what that is, but you should just click ask to be invited into the server, and it should just allow you in. You maybe are clicking the wrong thing. I'm not too sure, but yeah, hopefully you're able to kind of fix it or find a way to get into the server, because we'd love to have you on the server. But yeah, this is kind of it. I'm gonna maybe just shrink these down a little bit so that we can see both of them at the same time. There we go. So here are my portrait studies, and hopefully you guys had a lot of fun with this stream. I know that I had a real kind of good time doing these and showing you what are some of my exercises that I do personally. And again, just to really quickly go over it so you guys understand why I do the exercises in the way that I do them. Oops, put it here. There we go. So here was like the note from the very beginning. Just keep in mind that when you're doing exercises, that you're trying to hone your technical skills. So, which means that when you're drawing and you're putting down markings on your paper, to be kind of intentional with every mark that you make, but don't get too tense. So that's where the whole balance between experimental and gestural balances out your technical skills. Technical skills makes you focused and makes you know where to put the lines and to put the lines down with confidence, but the experimental side keeps you loose and gestural, so you're not too stiff. And it's always that balance. I think when it comes to art, it's always finding that balance, especially if you're going into character design and illustration. It's always finding that balance between technicals and gesturals, and every person's going to find a little bit of a different balance. Some people are more technical and other people are more gestural, but where you find that line is completely up to you. And when we did these exercises, I wanted you guys to focus on kind of laying down your skill or your lines with confidence, really laying down your marks with precision and to be direct with it, and to also find ways to combine and simplify shapes, and to also find shapes. So that's why our goal in these exercises, we're trying to aim for shape building and very direct line work. So you can kind of see that in the exercises that we did with both the pillow and the figure drawing is to kind of help you guys practice to be more direct with your line work. Instead of being vague and kind of unconfident or a little bit like hesitant with where to put lines, I want you guys to look for key spots like the silhouettes, drawing with straight lines, and looking for angles of the shoulders and angles in the limbs so that you know where to put the line down with confidence. And then after that, these were the exercises we did. And we finished off with a little bit of a fun one with these kind of portrait studies. So even though this is like portraits a little bit different from figure drawing, the lessons are still the same. You're taking kind of what you see in the reference, finding unique shapes that could be in the hat, that could be in the brows, and that could be in the head shape and how they're contorting their face, finding interesting connections and building interesting shapes and characters based on those connections that might not be very obvious. But yeah. Her name is Nebi Hypestar. Oh, cool. Yeah, definitely. We're about to end, so definitely go support Nebi Hypestar, I guess, if you guys are still available. But yeah, that kind of, I think, ends it. I'm going to close off with our closing statements, and that'll be the end of stream. Again, as always, keep an eye out for these images. I'll be posting all these notes and some of my portrait references as well, if you want to do more of these portrait studies and exercises. But yeah, I'm just going to leave this here as I go through the closing statements. Give me a sec so I pull it up. So yeah, thank you everybody for joining my stream. My name is Josh, and if this is your first time joining our stream, welcome. And if you don't know who I am an instructor over at a school called Winged Canvas. And if you don't know what Winged Canvas is, at Winged Canvas, our mission is to make art education easily accessible to everyone. So join us for free live stream lessons on YouTube every week and level up your skills with our community of art nerds. If you don't know, we stream on Saturdays at 3 p.m. Eastern and on Mondays at 12 p.m. Eastern time. And we're also more than just a YouTube channel. So if you want to deepen your skills, well, guess what? We're an online school of illustration and visual storytelling dedicated to helping artists turn their passion into income. And a huge shout out to our amazing students and members for supporting our mission. We love seeing your incredible artwork and watching you grow in our classes and weekly critiques. And if you want to dive deeper, definitely join our Discord, where you can access stream notes, demos, exclusive artwork, art challenges, and more free resources to help you improve. So come connect with your fellow art nerds and get inspired. And I guess a little shout out to our critique session. Every week we have a different instructor kind of scheduled on a different day. The info here is a little bit off. I actually now do critiques on Tuesdays. So if you want to get critiqued and you're part of our membership, I actually go live I believe this week on Tuesday at 5 p.m. And I'm going to be giving live feedback for our members. And yeah, I think that's about it. And so scheduled for the next stream, let's take a look at it. It is on the 12th. So it's going to be January 12th on Monday. It's going to be Faye. And Faye is going to show you how to draw caricatures people will want to pay you for. Ooh, so I guess that's actually a really good segue to what I did here on stream with these portraits here. I showed you, it'll be a nice little kind of more focal point. So if you were like itching for more portrait drawing, more caricatures, well, guess what? Faye is going to walk you through how she does portraits. So this is kind of how I do it, but Faye is going to run through how she likes to do it. So hope you guys enjoy that stream. Again, it's going to be on Monday at 12 p.m. Eastern time. So be sure to have it locked in onto your schedule. And also shout out again to our art challenge people here. So again, just a reminder that if you want to participate on Discord, every month we have an art challenge going up, and this month's challenge is the 30-minute concepts, and it's only January 10th, so you still have 20 more days to kind of check out this challenge and post it. And just like the people that I showcased here, you might have a chance to get a little bit of a shout out. So again, on every stream we try to give a little bit of a shout out and love and show of appreciation to our members on Discord. We're not even members, but just anybody is able to submit. So if you want to participate in and potentially get a shout out on our stream, definitely check out our art challenge that is posted on our Discord. And with that being said, that's kind of it. Hope you guys enjoyed the stream. I had a really good time kind of showing you guys some of the exercises that I do, and hopefully you got a chance to partake in it, or if not, hopefully you got to learn a little bit. And yeah, have a good weekend. Stay safe out there. Stay, I guess, warm, since it's kind of cold, getting cold again in Toronto, or if you're anywhere cold, hopefully stay warm. I guess if you're in anywhere hot, stay cool. And I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye. Have a good weekend, everybody.